What's up, everyone? Sam here from byte.com, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 6 of the biggest mistakes that I see software engineers making in their career. If you're making one of these mistakes, it can really affect your ability to have the most fulfilling, the most meaningful long-term career. So I want to make sure that you're aware of what these are and you can make sure to avoid them. And if you haven't already, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel because we have a ton more videos coming out about software engineering careers and interviewing, and I know that you're really going to find them valuable. All right, let's get into the mistakes. So in this video, I'm really going to be focusing on big, career-wide mistakes that you might be making. If you're looking for some mistakes specifically in terms of the actual day-to-day of software engineering, Clement over at Algo Expert posted a really good video about that, and I'll link to that in the cards. But let's go ahead and get into these big career mistakes. The number one mistake that I see people making again and again is that they don't actually have a clear roadmap of where they're trying to go in their career. Most of the time what I see people doing is they're looking just one step ahead, right? They're looking at what is that next thing that I'm going to do without thinking about further down the road, how am I going to get to that ultimate goal? And really, this results in kind of two main issues. Because number one, if you don't look far enough ahead in your career, you're only going to be able to achieve small goals. And why is that? Well, if you're only looking ahead at what can I achieve in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, then a lot of these goals are just going to seem completely impossible, completely unattainable, because some things are just not accomplishable in that period of time. Let's say that you wanted to start a successful company, or let's say that you wanted to become a CTO of a company. Those are things that, depending on where you are, they might take longer than 2 or 3 years. So if you're not thinking far out into the future, it's going to be impossible for you to achieve these real, big goals that you're going to be really excited about. And secondly, the issue with not planning further ahead is that when you do take steps forward, you're just taking basically random steps, right? You're saying, oh, well, this is better than where I am now, so I'm going to go to this next thing, but that's not necessarily the step that's going to get you towards that long-term goal. So you're kind of just going with this scattershot approach rather than actually taking the time to understand, this is my long-term goal. Let me break that down and work backwards and understand, okay, well, what is my 1-year goal, my 3-year goal, my 10-year goal, so that I can work towards it rather than just saying, what is the next best thing? What is the thing that's coming up that I'm excited about? Number two, it's not setting intentional goals, because this really goes along with part one, but you really want to understand where it is that you're trying to go. And I want to break down a specific example here so you understand why setting intentional goals is so important. So let's consider that you wanted to get a promotion. Your goal is to make a better salary. Your goal is to get into a better role at your company. Well, what do most people do? Their performance review comes up, it's that time of year, and they go in and they're like, okay, I'm going to ask for a promotion. Well, that might work. You may get a promotion, you may get lucky, but it's not a really great plan. Really, what you should have been doing is you should have gone back a year ago and said, okay, what are the steps that I need to put in place to get that promotion in a year? So you sit down with your manager and you say, hey, I really want to move up to this next level. Can you help me understand what it is that I would need to do in my role to make it clear to you that I am ready for that promotion, to make it clear to you that I'm giving you so much value that you want to give me a raise? And they can tell you, these are the specific things that I want you to do. So you can literally create a checklist and understand, okay, well, if I accomplish these things, then I'm going to be able to get that promotion in the future. The third mistake that I see people making all the time is that they stay at a job too long. It's really easy to become comfortable in a role. It's really easy to have a salary that you like, have coworkers you like, have a product that you understand really well and is easy for you to do the day-to-day. But depending on what your long-term goals are, if your goal is to keep progressing and keep moving up, the longer you stay in one place, beyond a certain point, the worse it's going to be when you ultimately try and change jobs. So there's a balance here. You don't want to be jumping from job to job to job to job more than you absolutely have to. But at the same time, you don't want to stay at a place too long, especially if you were not continuing to learn and progress. Generally, the way that I would think about this is, if I am not learning, if I am not progressing as an individual, then it is time for me to look for a new job. Because the longer you stay in this place of being comfortable, this place of not making progress in yourself, then the harder it's going to be for you to ultimately change jobs. So every 3 months, 6 months, year, I want you to think about, am I still learning things? Am I still being challenged on a regular basis? Am I still improving as a software engineer? And if not, then that might be the time to think about, okay, well, should I change jobs? Is there a way that I could either change within my company, which is fine, maybe you could move to another team or work on another project or take on other responsibilities that would allow you to keep developing? Or is there a way that I could move to a different company where I'm going to start making a lot more progress? Mistake number 4 that I see a lot is people actually focusing on trying to fix their weaknesses rather than doubling down on their strengths. And this may sound a little bit counterintuitive, but I want you to think about something. Who is the person that you see as being really successful in the world? Who are people that you think of as really successful? Like maybe you think of Steve Jobs, or you think of Elon Musk, or Jeff Bezos, or Bill Gates. And what's something that's characteristic about all of those people? All of those people are really good at certain things. They're not good at everything. Even though we kind of think in our head like, oh, well, Elon Musk is doing all these different things, he's not actually good at a lot of things. A perfect example with Elon Musk is like he's not good at like his familial relationships. That's just something that is not a priority to him, and he's really good at building businesses and really good at certain things. And so in the same way, can you focus on certain things in your job to really get good at and become the best at those things? A lot of times what I see people doing is they focus more on fixing their mistakes, fixing their weaknesses, rather than actually playing to their strengths. And what that results in is, you have existing strengths, but those strengths are not being developed. Those strengths are not being doubled down on. And so you never have strengths that are like truly great. You only have a bunch of things that you're pretty good at. So what I want you to think about when you're thinking about not making this mistake is like, are there any specific things that I'm really good at? Are there any things that I could double down on right now? It doesn't actually have to be technical skills at all. Maybe it could be like public speaking skills, or maybe it could be management, or maybe it could be communication. These are all different things that are not necessarily technical skills, but that are going to be very important in certain roles. And if you can double down on the things that you're really good at, those are going to make you a more valuable employee and ultimately going to give you more room to grow in the future, because you have those things where you are like the best at that thing, even though you're maybe not as good at certain other things. You want to be that like go-to person where if people need help with this, if you're really good at writing emails, you could be the go-to person when they need to communicate something to the team. If you're really good at handling interpersonal issues, maybe you could become the manager for the engineering team. Like, you would be a great person for these different roles depending on what your skill set is. And it's about doubling down on what it is that you are already best at. The 5th mistake that I see people making all the time is that they rely on a victim mentality in their career. And so what does this mean? Well, basically what it means is that they are completely reactive to the things that go on around them rather than being proactive. Maybe they lose their job. Maybe they got passed over for a promotion. Maybe they had a release and it didn't go well. Whatever it is, they tend to blame other people and they tend to say, well, that wasn't my fault. Like, I'm the victim of whatever circumstance, rather than taking accountability and actually looking for ways to solve the problem. This is something that if you can become really good at taking accountability and looking for proactive ways to solve problems, then you are going to be the one that everyone is going to trust. And that's one of the most important things in your career, is developing the trust of people around you. If you can develop this mentality where I see a problem and I'm not going to blame someone else, I'm not going to complain about things not working the way they're supposed to, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to fix the problem, I'm going to come up with a solution, I'm going to be proactive, then you are going to be in a much better position to ultimately be successful in your career. And this is something that's really hard, but if you can embody that, if you can start thinking, well, what are the things that I can control and how can I improve this situation, you're going to be much better off in the long term. And finally, the 6th mistake that I see people making all the time is that they focus on the material aspects of a job. They focus on how much salary can I get? How can I get like this particular company name on my resume? Can I work on this particular project because everyone would be so impressed with me? And what I've realized from working with hundreds and hundreds of students is that these are not the things that actually make people happy. Look at how many millionaires and billionaires there are that aren't happy. Like, obviously beyond a certain point, money is not the thing that's going to make you happy. Having those perks are not the thing that's going to make you happy. what's going to make you happy and what's going to really help you have that long-term fulfillment in your career is something that Daniel Pink calls the AMP framework. And so AMP stands for autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And if you can find autonomy, mastery, and purpose in your career, those are going to be the things that are going to lead to that long-term fulfillment. I've talked to so many people about like, oh, if I just got a job at Facebook, then I would be happy. Or, oh, if I just got a job at Google, then I would be happy. And then I talk to people at Google and Facebook and they're like, oh, well, if I just got this other job, then I would be happy. And the problem is that people don't really understand what that long-term fulfillment looks like. They don't understand what's actually going to make them happy. And so if you can focus on building your career around those three things, around the autonomy, mastery, and purpose, you can say, okay, well, how could I find a job that gives me autonomy? How can I develop true mastery of a skill? How can I work on a project that has meaning to me, that has purpose, that gives back in some way? If you can find ways to build those into your career, those are going to be the things that are going to give you long-term success. And with that, that's all I got for you today. So remember, if you want to have that long-term fulfilling career, you want to avoid making these 6 big mistakes. You want to avoid not having a roadmap, not making intentional goals, focusing on your weaknesses rather than your strengths, not changing jobs when you need to change jobs, having a victim mentality, not understanding what are the things that are going to make you totally fulfilled in your career. And if you avoid these, I promise you're going to have a much more fulfilling career. So if you haven't already, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I really appreciate it. It helps us grow the channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.